Ever wonder why some anglers can load up on early spring bass while others just can't even get a bite? Well, there is a formula for finding and catching loads of spring hog bass. So in this video, I'm going to show you some of the best kept secrets most anglers don't want you to know so that you could go out there and catch the big bass that you deserve. Now, the first step to understanding where bass are going to be is understanding the fish's comfort zone. If you've been following my channel for a while, you'll know that I'm always talking about the fish's comfort zone, and this really has to do with water temperatures. Water temperatures are going to dictate a lot of what these fish do, especially in the spring. So in order to understand this, we need to break up spring into the three categories that really dictate fish movement and fish behavior, and that's going to be the pre-spawn, the spawn, and the post-spawn. Now, the pre-spawn for big bass is where they're going to gather in large schools, and you can often catch the biggest fish out of the year, as well as the most biggest fish you're going to catch all year. Pre-spawn temperatures can be anywhere from 45 degrees to 60 degrees. Now, keep in mind with these pre-spawn water temperatures, you're really going to be focused on areas of deep water like the winter holding grounds. This is where fish can move vertically in the water column up and down to find those stable, more comfortable water conditions. Also keep in mind, no matter how comfortable you are in the air as an angler, the water temperature is going to warm up much slower, and the fish can still be very cold. Now, as a bonus, here's a secret tip I learned over many years of fishing, and that is a lot of really big fish will want to move shallow a lot earlier than what a lot of people expect. So never be shy in testing out those shallow water areas right next to those staging areas, as a lot of times big old females will be trying to get in shallow and trying to get that spawn over with as quickly as possible. And the best part of all, when those fish are done spawning, you're simply going to find them back in those pre-spawn areas post-spawn. So wherever you found the bass in the pre-spawn, make sure you keep note of that, because you're absolutely going to find them again after they're done spawning when they move back out to deep water. Now, with all of that in mind, bass are going to want to do these three things in this order come springtime. One, they are going to want to warm up. They have to get their body temperatures up so that their metabolism goes up so that they can feed. Number two is they're going to need to feed heavily and put on some weight in preparation from the spawn where they could go an extended period of time without actually eating again. Then number three is going to be they are going to want to spawn, which is of course the entire motivation of these fish come springtime. Now we have to find areas where they actually can move vertically up and down in the water column to find those comfort zones, and where they could have access to some of that shallow water. Now, to help you find these locations and piles of these big bass, I made a free fish finding tool that you could download that gives you access to topographic maps and satellite imagery so that you could easily find the fishing spots that I'm going to show you right now. And if you want even further assistance with your fishing, you can work with me one-on-one, and I'll leave both of those links in the description below. Now, the easiest way to find these spots on your large bodies of waters like rivers and large reservoirs or big lakes or something like that is to find the main river channel or the creek channel, because that is going to be the deepest part of the body of water that you're fishing on. Now, next, you do want to find that deep water adjacent to shallow water here, and what you can look for is secondary structures. Things like shallow water points that stick out into the main body of water, or things like bluffs where that creek channel runs right up against the bank. One of the best areas to find pre-spawn bass is channel swings and secondary channel swings. These are areas of the main channel that are swinging into the fingers of the lakes, reservoirs, rivers, whatever you might be fishing. This gives you the deep water that you're looking for, points and structure that gives you shallow access into that deep water, and it also gives you access to what we call fish highways into the shallow water where those fish are going to look to warm up and spawn as soon as they find some stable weather conditions. Now, if you're fishing a man-made structure, man-made ponds, or natural lakes where you don't have a creek channel running through the body of water you're fishing, there's a couple of tricks that you could use to find deeper holes in a lake where you could target some of these fish. One is just trying to find some holes and deeper points in a lake that you could find with your eyes when the wind is blowing. So typically speaking, and I teach this all the time in saltwater fishing as well, when that wind blows, you can see the little little eddies and stuff forming in the middle of the lake where you have that structure. Now, one of the biggest tricks here of all is, again, using your eyesight to look at the bank. Whatever you're seeing on the bank will typically mimic what is under the water. For example, if I'm standing on flat land and I'm fishing, the chances are that in the water, it's also going to be flat, just the same as where I'm standing. If I'm fishing on a steep bank that drops really sharply off into the water, well, chances are, in the water, it's going to continue to sharply drop off into deeper water. So now that we know where to find our deep water adjacent to shallow water, and even our secondary structures, what else can you look for? Well, to be blunt, the sun. The sunlight is going to dictate everything in the spring, right? The longer days are triggering all the birds and squirrels and trees and flowers and everything to get into spring mode. And again, what you see above the water is happening below the water, and those fish are doing the exact same thing. Nature is responding to these extra long sunny days. So what this means for you is you should look for areas on your lake where that sun is coming up over the lake the soonest. Areas on the lake that are exposed to most sunlight in any given part of the day. This can be key to finding these fish. Now, when the sun is really warming up that water, you will notice that fish can transition into shallow water from those staging areas extremely fast. And this is what often causes people to say things like, "I don't get it. They were here yesterday." The fish simply move due to the ever-changing and often volatile spring weather conditions. When fish do start moving shallow, it's a great idea to fish that transition zone between that deep water and that shallow water. You basically want to fish those fish highways that the fish are going to be traveling on. Now, when water tips hit that area of ideal spawning for the fish, you'll find that fish will move deep into the pockets of a lake to find areas where they can make their beds in shallow water, protected from weather like wind and currents. Bass pretty much do not want to lay their eggs where they could be washed away later. If you can find a protected pocket deep into a secondary channel or finger of your lake or reservoir or river, as well as some hard bottom or structures like rock, gravel, sand, docks, stumps, you are going to find some bass. So now you got the fish location down, but you got a variety of depth that you're fishing. Remember, you're fishing these deep water holes, these staging areas, these transition zones into shallow water. Well, now is the critical step that everybody misses, and that is finding that strike zone. To find the fish's all-important strike zone, I would recommend only a few lures that could really help you avoid the lure overwhelm that a lot of anglers suffer in the spring. These are lures that you can fish high in the water column, low in the water column, and in the middle of the water for those suspended fish. These lures you can fish fast and slow and everywhere in between. And perfect lures to do this are spinnerbaits and chatterbaits. These two lures pretty much cover you for like 90% of their spring fishing areas that you may find. As you move more shallow, or you want to fish those shallow water points we talked about, you could always use a square bill crankbait, which I did an entire video on not long ago if you want to check that out. And of course, jerk baits that suspend, which again is going to be really ideal for covering different areas in the water to find the fish's ideal strike zone. Now, a trick that nobody talks about that I bang the drum on all the time on this channel is everyone is going to tell you to use really big baits for these fish. But again, spring is a super volatile time of the year. It's 20 degrees outside right now as I'm filming this, and it's in the middle of March. It's absolutely freezing out there. So many times, downsizing your baits and fishing things like ultralight gear can really catch you a lot of big fish. You will be amazed at how big of a fish you could catch with just a little itty bitty lure that those fish could be really honed in on. Sometimes when the fish are cold and inactive, they don't necessarily want to wrestle something like a giant gizzard shad. They just want a quick meal and they want to load up on food even when they can be non-aggressive. So a small, very slow moving bait like a Zoom Tiny Fluke baby bass on a crappy magnet fin spin jig head can absolutely crush some fish if they get blasted with something like a nasty cold front. Now, nasty cold fronts are absolutely a thing that causes bass anglers a ton of heartache and can really nullify a lot of the tips shared in this video. However, if you want to be able to catch fish even in the harshest springtime conditions, check out this video right here where I show you an amazing lure trick that just catches massive bass when no one else can. Thanks for tuning in, Fish Lots. I'll see you out there on the water.